Thank you very much for allowing a user to moderate this panel of all pharma experts. We are the end users and the patients trust us to deliver the right medicines to them. So I think pharma and quality is something that's very close to our hearts, and it's wonderful to be talking to all of you. When we speak about quality in healthcare as a general subject, we often treat it as a moral obligation. And speaker after speaker, panel after panel today. Hi, welcome, Abhay. So, yeah, I know the traffic today is amazing. So, we're speaking about, when we talk about quality in healthcare in general and pharma in particular, we treat it as a moral obligation. And of course it is, right? So, but the uncomfortable truth is this, that morality alone has never built any systems at scale, right? Because healthcare does not really fail when intentions are weak. We all go in with the best of intentions to treat our patients well, to make the best possible medicines. It fails when mission is not backed by markets, right? When quality is seen as a cost in our minds instead of as an investment that will yield us multifold returns. Every time, so I sit on the NABH board, and when I go and talk to small hospitals in small towns that you have to drive quality, you have to be accredited, you have to be accountable, the first reply I get is it's too expensive for us. You know, the patients are not ready to pay for all the quality initiatives that you want us to take. And I think it's similar in small pharma factories, small producers. And this is where I think the idea of market-minded, mission-driven becomes very essential to whatever we do in healthcare. Being mission-driven, of course, means that we are uncompromising about patient safety, about efficacy of your drugs, about trust. But market-minded means then that we make sure that the models we build to deliver this are viable, scalable, and sustainable, so that quality doesn't collapse the moment subsidies disappear, or the moment scrutiny disappears, or the moment goodwill disappears. So pharma sits at a unique intersection of science and scale. I think we heard in the previous panel between regulation and real world use, and between global responsibility that the Indian pharma industry has and local trust that we need to develop. The future of healthcare quality, especially pharma quality, I am sure you will all agree with me, will not be shaped by regulators alone, definitely not by technology alone, certainly not by price competition alone. It will be shaped by how intelligently pharma aligns with incentives, data, ethics, economics, all of them coming together. So I'm really, really happy that we have such a esteemed panel of guests here to discuss these issues with us. And I would like to start with you, Dr. Gupta sir. You sit on both ends. You've been at AIIMS. You are the president of one of the AIIMS. You've been heading the pharmacology department. You're an advisor to so many pharma companies. So you have an academia, regulation, global public health lens all through. From your vantage point across these teaching institutions and global public health and drug safety, where do you think does Indian pharma ecosystem most commonly confuse compliance with true quality? Is it just a checkbox for all the pharma, or is it really, are they having it in their bloodstream?
I think you raised a very confusing question. Compliance and quality sounds similar if I say so. And both of them, whether you say compliance or quality, aim is to provide a medicinal or pharmaceutical product which is safe, which is effective, which is made of high standard, and which is given to the patient in Indian context. But when you say compliance, it means it is complying with certain regulatory norms. And in Indian context, this is regulatory, means you say CDSU or maybe Indian drug regulations, maybe Indian pharmacopoeia, the standards which are mentioned here. if it is complying with the US FDA or it is complying with the guidelines of EMEA, that is complying, whether it is the composition, whether it is a testing ability, whether it is stability, whether it is a dissolution, disintegration. So the standards are given, so it is compliance. Compliance is a mandatory, and if you don't comply, you out. Either you face recall or you face punishment or whatever is that. The quality is not a mandatory requirement here. Quality is much more beyond the compliance. And if I say, this is a flower, this is a flower, this is also meeting compliance, this is also meeting compliance, but I feel that this is, and my experience is, this is better quality. That means I am comparing this with something. And that perception is so critical, particularly for Indian generics, not only in India, but when the Indian generics are exported to US, to Japan, maybe to any other country, then the quality sense makes a difference. I will just give you an example. The certain drugs of vitamin D3 preparations in India meeting compliance because they are GMP made, they are revised GMP made, but then the recovery of the vitamin D3 levels is not as fast perhaps with comparison to A, B, C, and maybe if the drug is purchased from outside, maybe like that. And then perception that this is of inferior quality. Maybe there may be some parameter, defined parameter, maybe there is a no defined parameters. So that is one thing. Similarly, sometimes what often you might have come to know, NSQ, not of standard quality. And there is a very subtle difference between the poor quality and the regulatory compliance of NSQ. If this is an antimicrobial agent which is of 250 milligram and plus minus XYZ, say maybe 10%, which is acceptable as compliance, but here is a product which say 250 milligram means 247 plus minus 1 or 2. Here is another product which says 250 milligram plus minus 10 or 20. Both are regulatory complied, but then quality is different. And therefore, the often confusing thing, quality and compliance. Compliance is mandatory, which you have to follow. If you don't follow, you are out. Quality is still competitive. Perception. And we have to struggle in India for our brand as quality products in India. Indian quality products. That's what. Of course, if it is not complied, it will be out.
Thank you very much, sir. So, compliance is
mandatory.
Just hygiene. I think we need to be way beyond if we want to be really trustworthy in the global scenario. Nakul, coming to you, India still struggles with a lot of substandard and falsified medicines, right? And you lead PharmaSecure especially for this purpose. Do you really believe that can technology realistically restore a patient's trust at scale? Or do you think we are overestimating the technology role and the pharma producers, etc., have to play a much bigger role in that?
Thank you for that. I've had the privilege, by virtue of the company that I'm running, which has been in this space for more than 15 years, but also because as the other hat that I wear is as a vice president right now of, and been president of the Authentication Solution Providers Association, which has been doing research into the problem of counterfeiting and what is consumer perception of counterfeiting. The reason I say that is because at the end of the day, everyone is working towards the health and safety of patients. So what are patients thinking? When we did a countrywide study in 2022, we found that that about 33% of the consumers surveyed said that they had come across counterfeit products, or spurious is the right term, but they were unaware at the time of purchase. That is an extremely high number. Now, does that mean that 33% of medicines in India are spurious? Certainly, I would not say that. The statistics are varying. I think many of the people in this room, especially pharma industry, would be well aware. The not of standard quality percentage varies around 3 to 4% as per government statistics. The spurious has been 0.02 to 0.04%. However, WHO, the last global study that they did, claimed that 1 in 10 medicines are substandard or falsified. So what the right number is, my view is let's not get into that. Even 1 is too many. So I think what we have to do is a multifaceted approach. It's a kind of a long way of coming to the question that you asked, which is correct. And the answer to the question is, there is no magic bullet to this. Certainly there are multiple technology solutions. We have serialization regulations, we have holograms that are being used, we have more advanced non-clonable technologies. But if we think that just applying one solution to it is the be-all and end-all for patient safety or supply chain security, I would say that it is probably an incomplete approach. So my view is that we need a few different steps. The first step comes with awareness. We have to have awareness that this is a problem that needs to be tackled, both from an industry perspective, a regulator perspective, as well as obviously from the patient's perspective. We have to have the right regulations to protect patients. We have a number of serialization, track and trace regulations that govern exports. Pharma companies that are exporting are complying already with multiple such regulations. We did have one for Indian exports as well, which has been suspended and I think is going to be reworked and reintroduced in a different form. For Indian consumers, we've had QR coding mandated since 2023 on the top 300 brands, which I hope everyone is aware, and many of you would be using some of these medicines, so it is something that as consumers we have to be aware of. But going further, I think we need strict enforcement when we have such incidents and when we have a problem that emerges in the market. So I think everyone would be aware of the unfortunate incident that happened in 2025 with the cough syrup deaths in Madhya Pradesh. I mean, it's a tragedy that we lost lives of children because of that, but unfortunately, it was not the first such incident. It wasn't even the second. It was at least the fourth that I can remember, the previous ones being exported, cough syrups in Gambia, in Uzbekistan, and before that in our own country in Jammu and Kashmir. I think what we need is a comprehensive approach to look at this as a problem that requires a comprehensive, multifaceted solution, with technology solutions being a part of it, but certainly not the complete picture.
I totally agree. And Dr. Abhay, that really brings us to you, because you see this through the exports policy and competitiveness lens. And as Nakul said that, there have been multiple incidents involving Indian pharma producers, and not just in India, but across the world. India is seen as the pharmacy to the world, but what according to you would determine whether Indian pharma is seen as a partner of choice going forward or as a risk supplier over the next 5 to 10 years? What are your thoughts on what will determine whether we really fly through or struggle in the world market?
Thank you for taking me through my past journey in Pharma Excel and taking care of pharma sector and whatever I'm hearing right now about pharmacy of the world, India. So it actually is a music to my ears, and good that everyone has that recall value. So I'll start with this point itself. Not only like recent incidents, what has been mentioned about Gambia, Uzbekistan and other places, but you see way back in 2012 or almost close to that year, I may be forgetting the exact year, but certain products were seized in Nigeria, long time back. And then it was found that they were not from the Indian origin, but actually made in China, and but misbranded. So it was not about a spurious product from India or counterfeit. It was actually a case of misbranding and somebody using the credibility of India to spoil the market. Now there are two things happen in pharma. It's a political subject, we all understand. like every country has got a control, and they do have regulatory requirements, maybe perceived as a barrier for the manufacturer in their quest for export, but it actually certain standards. So one is like, I'll come to this part, what I tried to touch upon, but let me begin with something on the quality compliance part, because you mentioned about quality and how to ensure the efficacy and other thing. Any pharma manufacturer who is aspiring to export pharma product need to comply with the regulations or regulatory compliances of the destination country. There is no two thought about it. One has to comply. But then the question is cost of compliance. And that's where a lot of issues come up on whether the manufacturers are ready to meet that cost of compliance in their aspiration to export. And at the same time, anything going wrong in any given market because of the competition, because of many such issues as identified, there could be fly-by-night operators also. They are there. So how to put a check on it? Because even a single case of a product found is spurious, not having enough efficacy, is first spoiling the image of the country, not of the manufacturer. And that's where the track and trace technology came into existence. So Ministry of Commerce and other line ministries, along with Pharmaceuticals, started working on 2-3 areas. One is, and this is a good point to mention when we talk about the quality, is how to address the scenarios of anti-India propaganda on something found is spurious, but may not be actually true. So one was, how do we align with the drug regulators across the world, like the country where it was found, and here DCGI and a state drug regulator. So how do they align? That's one. Second, how to counter that. So PR agencies were involved and creating a communication buzz all around the world to take care of the, of course it was like initially started as a reactive approach, but then it became a proactive approach, that before anyone start talking about the quality of Indian products, because mainly we export generics. So before we start exporting or they talk about in a negative way, it's better to put a good image. So Brand India Pharma campaign was launched in 2012 after CEPA signing with Japan. And that's where like pharmacy of the world and then India as a responsible healthcare. These two words were coined at that time. And the slogan was credibility, sustainability, and affordability. Normally, like, and this comes back again, the cost of meeting the compliances. But then people were looking for, like, we were selling the products as cheap products, but then it has got a different connotation. So affordable word was coined. And of course, I believe every institutions in pharma manufacturing need to comply with the quality required for the export, the compliances. And I believe we have enough institutional mechanism to take care of that, along with track and trace, which is right now, I think, put on abeyance, but a very good methodology was developed just before the COVID incident happened. So this is my take. And of course, IFEX and Brand India Pharma campaign everywhere, globally, anywhere in the world, Indian pharma is on. 30 billion export is there.
I'll definitely come back to you on the track and trace or authentication systems, and would love to hear Nakul's viewpoints on those as well. But Dr. Rajeev, coming to you, you as a platform sit, I think, the closest to the patient amongst all of us here. We've heard that bad quality damages the country's reputation, the supplier's reputation, the manufacturer's reputation. But do you feel that how does the definition of quality really change when you see it from a patient's lens or a patient screen rather than on the factory floor? What exactly is the definition and how does it change for you?
Yeah, I think that's a very pertinent question, especially in the digital world that we are living in and moving more towards. The moment when it's, quality for the patients or the users, we move from the factory's floor, which is all about GMP compliance, audits, all kind of batch records, to the phone screens or wherever they're ordering from screens. And when it's about screens, it's accuracy of all the information that is available on the screen, timeliness of when the promise or the expectation for the product was made to the user, availability of different assortments of SKUs and salts present with the platform, and also the trust. Now with, we heard a few comments, and when the cost and the cost of manufacturing and quality compliance is kind of compressing the price differences across various channels, what really happens is trust becomes a premium that you kind of command, and you can, and I'll just take an example at Tata 1mg, like how Abhay was saying, and even Nakul, we have this track and trace that we provide full access to the consumers also, that for a few of, for almost all the products that are coming to them, they can just scan the QR code and see the journey of that particular strip product from the time it entered our warehouse or our retail store to how it reached them, and we are buying from the manufacturers. So the more we look at quality from the patient's lens, I think that's all that matters, because if we failed in catching the bad quality, wrong quality, NSQ, counterfeit, fake, and spurious, and all the rest, and it has reached patients' hands, which will happen if the supply chains are not intact enough, we have failed the quality.
Absolutely, I agree. And I think we are almost out of time, and since we are the only ones sitting between the awards and the future awardees, I'll just come back to the panelists for a very quick ending bite. So if you could explain in 1 minute only, sir. Professor Gupta, sir, as we've heard that quality harms everyone, right? According to you, which is that one quality failure that most directly harms patients? Not regulators, not the country, not the image, but one quality failure that directly harms the patient.
I think any quality of the medicine will harm all patients. I will give you, it's very difficult to say one. And if I ask the audience here, if your spouse has an headache or did not find sleep, and you give an analgesic, it doesn't work, then the quality of the entire family suffers. You have a headache of one person, the irritation persists throughout the day. If she or he doesn't sleep well, quality of the day-to-day activity suffers. But having said that, quality of anti-cancer drugs, quality of anti-diabetic drug, quality of these are some very important which are apparent. But I represent here also the global antibiotic resistance. I feel if I have to name one which has a disastrous, if the quality of antibiotic is poor, then it is going to have a consequence of antimicrobial resistance, which is now almost considered as a pandemic, global pandemic, a sudden or hidden pandemic, 1.14 million deaths every year globally just because of resistance. And one of the important cause is, of course, one is that the inappropriate dose and the medicine for inappropriate disease without diagnosis. So that I would rate as hidden disadvantage or misery or tragedy which can happen with quality lack. Of course, others also.
Absolutely. From a provider's perspective, I can absolutely second that. We are seeing a lot of young patients coming in with complete antibiotic resistance in sepsis and really deteriorating very rapidly and not responding to anything. So I think it won't be very far off when we go back to the 18th century times when an infection was a certain death sentence, and we all need to take up responsibility for putting antimicrobial stewardship at the very top of all of our agendas wherever we are. Nakul, we talked about the track and trace mechanism briefly. There are a lot of pharma representatives sitting here, a lot of pharma companies. Very quickly, can you tell us the one big mistake you've seen pharma companies doing when they're adopting the track and trace or the authentication mechanism?
I will quickly tell you three. One is, don't just think of it as kind of implementing a technology, you're implementing a solution. So at the end of the day, for the solution to be effective, there needs to be a kind of consumer usage. So for example, for the domestic market, we do have the QR coding mandate, which is only going to be as effective as the consumers, the number of consumers that are using it. For example, there is a lot of data being generated. We've seen it ourselves, data that can be used to actually use a GPS location to track where counterfeiters may be selling their spurious products. That data can be used for raids, for enforcement, for actions that can help instill that fear in them, which is what we really want. The second thing is, don't be afraid of awareness campaigns. I've had many conversations where sometimes the concern is that if I raise awareness about this solution that I've implemented on my product, will patients or consumers lose confidence in the quality of my product, thinking maybe there is a problem, that's why we're doing it. But there are examples of companies that have done this and have gained a reputation. At ASPA, we are very proud to have partnered with Mankind just down the road from us, who have openly been talking about. Their CEO, Mr. Sheetal Arora, is a very passionate advocate of promoting patient safety. I take this as an example because I think that there is a lot more that can be done in this regard to protect patients, raise awareness. And the third and last point is that you don't look at it only as a cost. The English expression that many of you would be familiar with is, penny wise, pound foolish. So sometimes I have seen that in terms of cutting corners, sometimes a certain solution may be implemented which may not be viable in the long term, or which may not give the benefits. So even that investment can be lost. So evaluate the solution, make the right investment for your company, and definitely use it effectively going forward to gain the most return on that investment.
Absolutely. And Dr. Sinha, coming to you, very quick answer, an honest answer. Do you feel our export incentives and policies are truly rewarding quality, or are they still very focused on volumes?
You see, the effort has been to enhance the value. Volume, of course, will remain our strength because of the generic. And, but at the same time, on the track and trace, that's also the cost initially was considered to be innovative in adopting the practice of different codes, buying the codes and all those things. So with CDAC, the government actually started supporting the industry, small manufacturers, to take up their cost burden, and that was the incentive. So that incentive was to ensure the quality and of course enhance the image of products from India. So track and trace was actually aimed at that.
Absolutely. And as I keep saying, true quality is seen when these incentives, subsidies, monitoring all disappear. That is where we find, where the
incentives
true
are
technology
there for promotion of the product
Absolutely.
globally, but promotion of quality products. So it is embedded into any incentive what is being given. You have to promote your quality product.
Dr. Rajeev, closing thoughts from you. Based on your experience with Tata MG, what do you see and what would you advise the pharma friends here? What are the patients valuing the most currently? Is it brand, is it price, is it quick availability, or is it verified quality? What is it that the patients value the most, and what would you advise the pharma companies here?
It's a very heavy question to advise pharma companies, but I can definitely share observations from being close to the users and the patients. When it comes to the quality of medicines that patients or users consume, it is not only the price or the brand alone that they're concerned about, and we could further divide them into various cohorts, but when it comes to acute illnesses, definitely the availability is topmost priority, but when it comes to chronic diseases and medications, people do look for something that they are more confident, comfortable, trust, and they feel more compliant, in terms of the brand, the company, as well as the supply chain that they're buying medicine from. And it just does not stop there, I think. And it's not only pharma manufacturers' prerogative and the buzz, but it has to be a collaborative effort where the manufacturers make it happen, regulators kind of enforce it, and the system makes it transparent and visible for the users to trust and see and trust it. So that would be my closing point.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And I want to leave you all with one closing thought. In pharma in particular and healthcare in general, quality cannot be a trade-off. It is the price of credibility in the future. Only value-based markets can create quality at scale. And the winners in pharma at the end will not be the ones asking the question, can we afford this quality? They'll be the ones who are asking, can we afford to build anything without quality being embedded deeply into the bloodstream? Thank you very much, gentlemen, once again for sparing time, and thank you for being such patient listeners. Thank you.